What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hot List. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether you are catching this live on the replay or listening to this on your podcast player of choice. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to spend a few minutes and talk about real estate. In the Hot List, we talk about real estate questions, concerns, and other topics that people submit for a segment that is called the question of the day. If you're interested in having your question answered on air, all you have to do is just shoot me a message either on Facebook or YouTube. You can also drop it in the comment section on your podcast player of choice. And I would be happy to not only answer that question for you, but use that for future videos and future content just like this one. And the reason I'd say that is because if you have a question about real estate, the chance that somebody else has that same question or similar question is extremely high. And what better place to get an answer and start than the Hot List? I'm your host, Matt Johnson with Keller Realty, and I've been doing the Hot List now for about 2 years, and it has slowly evolved each with each episode and each year that I do this. So when we originally started doing this, it was talking about properties. Since things have changed with the MLS, they changed the rules, regulations. Now this is gravitating more towards a question and answer and just answering a question of the day. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. Yep, we're good. All right. All right. So what I do in the question of the day is I answer a question that either a current past client has asked, maybe they brought it up during the sales process or the beginning before the process, or maybe somebody has dropped a comment or submitted a question to me through social media. What I do, I take those questions and I use them for video content and future episodes. And with that, I either use my personal knowledge, personal experience, or if it's something I'm not familiar with, then I talk to people that know more about it. So maybe it's contractors, lenders, builders, whatever the case may be, whatever that question pertains to. If it's not something I'm familiar with, then I do some research and come up with the best answer with talking to people and doing my own research. So the question of the day today, how can I maximize my corner cabinets? I thought this was a great time to get into this question because we just talked about updating kitchen cabinets last week. And hopefully by now you've listened to that episode and you've learned that a good set of kitchen cabinets are definitely essential because they not only hold, your plates, your bowls, your cups, and other assorted utensils and keep them organized. They can also provide easy access to dry goods and other items that you may need frequently while you're in the kitchen or while you're cooking. Now, more cabinet space is obviously going to equal less clutter in your kitchen. Goes back to organization and not feeling like your kitchen's coming in on you because it's cluttered. And because there's less clutter in the kitchen, this allows more storing and items until they're needed. That is going to keep them close by and hidden in those cabinets, whether they are just your regular kitchen cabinets or corner kitchen cabinets. Now, here's where it gets tricky with the corner cabinets and why I wanted to do this separate instead of just lump this one in with the kitchen cabinets. The corner cabinets usually provide most of the interior space. However, a lot of that space is not easy to access because with it being a corner cabinet, most of the time it has a narrower door, cabinet door, than what another cabinet might have. Now, this is obviously going to be an issue, not an issue that you should have to accept or be willing to accept, because there's a few different ways to address this problem without having to, kind of contort yourself or shimmy yourself into the back of the cabinet to get what you need. So, what we are going to talk about today are going to be 3 ways to do more with corner cabinets. Number one on the list, I'm sure those of you that have corner cabinets in your kitchen knew this one was coming. Number one is install a Lazy Susan system. This is typically the most popular and the best known because it's a multi tiered system, and this thing provides a ridiculous amount of storage. Again, chances are pretty high that you've seen one, excuse me, or know what they are because these have been popular for years. I don't know how many years they've been around, but they've been around for a number of years, so I'm sure you've seen them by now. And the usual setup for these is typically 2 or 3 round platforms that are all connected by like a central or center rod or spindle, and this allows them to rotate more easily in the cabinets. And these are pretty simple because all you have to do is just add items to the platform, just turn it a little bit and continue to add these items. I Depending on the setup of your system, I would recommend placing either taller or heavier items on the bottom as opposed to the top, because the top typically is going to have the most reduced amount of space. So you want either those smaller kitchen appliances or the heavier items, taller items on the bottom, and then maybe your canned items on the top. Most of the time, people will see these. Of course, depending on the cabinet size, you're going to see with 2 platforms. You'll have one at the bottom for the taller or heavier items that I mentioned, and one at the top. Sometimes, if you have a little bit taller of a cabinet, you'll even see it with 3 platforms instead of just 2. There's going to be some trade offs. I mean, there's going to be pros and cons to having 3 platforms versus 2. Obviously, with 3, this means you're going to have more space because each platform adds more storage, but the amount of vertical space that you have for storage is obviously going to decrease. Number 2 on the list, add pull-out shelving. Now, this is actually the option that we ended up going with our kitchen cabinets, and we personally liked these styles or this style better than the Lazy Susan, because this style you can either pull straight out or they will rotate from within the cabinet on tracks. Either way, this allows full access to the shelf's contents and the shelf storage. And then, of course, once you're done, it just slides back into the cabinet. It's pretty simple. There are some more complex setups. One of the options that we actually saw when we were shopping was a setup with hinges and tracks. This was to maximize the amount of shelf space that was in the cabinet. And how this works is usually you have one shelf that's attached directly to the door, and the others pull out alongside it for easier access. Whichever setup you prefer is more comfortable or will maximize the space in there, it's all going to be the same premise and same idea of the pull-out shelves you're bringing the shelf to you instead of like the lazy Susan, you've got to bend down, crouch down, or without the lazy Susan, you just have to try to reach to the back of the cabinet, sometimes with a flashlight because there's no light back there. And you just have to try to reach to the back, find what you're looking for, and sometimes you can end up making a mess, or you have to pull everything out of the cabinets to just get access to the back. And this style of shelving makes the entire space within that corner cabinet more convenient, since the shelves are really going to fill up that space that otherwise wouldn't be used. Then, of course, it allows to be easily pulled out of the cabinet whenever you need it, slidden back. It's just that simple. And that's kind of why we decided to go the route of the pull-out shelves versus, like a lazy Susan, because you still have to bend down, crouch down. When pull-out shelves, you can just pull it out and it just comes right to you. It just more user-friendly in my opinion. And finally, number 3 on the list is revitalizing the cabinets. What this is going to be, is maybe the other two options you don't like, not available. You want something that is a little more, maybe a little more unique, or your personal preference is a little bit different. So what you could do is replace your existing cabinet with a new cabinet that has the corner cabinets angled on the inside for easier access. Other option with this is you have a set of L-shaped drawers, and this makes for better use of available space than what a standard cabinet would be. The other option that is very popular, and we almost did, was simply adding a pantry. And the benefits of adding a pantry, obviously, you're going to get a ton of storage for not just dry goods, but maybe some pans, your pots, small appliances, whatever the case may be. And this was really something that we considered and decided against, because while this would have given us an actual pantry for dry goods and storage space, it would have eliminated some counter space that we were really wanting to make sure that we maximize. Maybe this would work for you though, and instead of redoing a corner cabinet, you might eliminate it altogether. Excuse me. Altogether, and add a floor to ceiling pantry. Now, depending on the layout of the kitchen, this might be an option, or maybe there's something else that you can come up with that's just as creative as this. No matter what you decide, remember, like we talked last week, your home is your investment. If you're not enjoying your investment, then it's time to put some work into it, either refacing or remodeling. So I'm just going to run through these, because those are the 3 ways to do more with your corner cabinets. Number 1 was install the lazy Susan. It's 2 or 3 platforms depending on the setup and the cabinet size that you have, and it just rotates on a spindle. You spin it and just load up more items. Number 2 was add pull-out shelving. This was the option and the route that we went, because whether it's on a hinge or a track, you're pulling the shelf to you, and you're not having to bend down or crouch down and try to dig through the back, or pull your Tupperware, your pots, your pans, your mixer out just to reach the back of the cabinet. And then finally, number 3 was just revitalizing the cabinets, whether it's with a different shaped drawer, or maybe you're adding a floor to ceiling pantry for storage of dry goods and those small kitchen appliances. Whatever works for you, do what is going to be the most convenient for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Thank you guys so much for joining me in the hot list. Again, I'm your host, Matt Johnson with Keller Williams Realty. I do this because your experience matters and should be trusted with a veteran. Y'all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.